Charlotte Soccer Show. The season, Danny Brams, is over.
Cheers.
Cheers to you, and cheers to what was a really, really fun, a really, really exciting, and an intriguing 2023 campaign for Charlotte FC. It ends on Wednesday night in Newark, New Jersey, against...
Technically Harrison, but you have to fly to Newark to get there, yes. Yeah.
And
all those towns blend together there, you know that.
Charlotte FC unfortunately gives up 5 goals in the play-in match, and Red Bulls, they're moving on to face Supporters Shield champion Cincinnati, and Charlotte FC is going home.
Well, you know, we were consistent. About 10 minutes into the game, we gave up a goal. About 10 minutes after that, we give up another goal. About 10 minutes after that, we give up another goal. You know, you play against us for 10 minutes, you're going to get a goal on that in that situation. Pretty much one of the worst first halves of the year. Doomed us. Things got better in the second half. We came back and played Red Bull to a 2-2 draw in the final 45. Lots of action, lots of excitement. And my soccer soul got some satisfaction from some of the things that happened. Obviously, we can talk about Kerwin's wonder goal, probably one of the greatest goals in MLS history, which is absolutely insane to think about. As the first goal in the 5-2 loss, and then Vargas Agyemang's goal, which is just a sheer force of will, wonder goal in a different sense for just the way that he was able to do it. Johnny, you were like you had obligations right up to kickoff, so you caught the game at home. You had the sort of the viewer's eye view. I was kind of caught up in the mix at Camp North End. So I want to hear what you saw, because I was kind of more caught up in the spirit of the event, more so than closely watching every single detail of the game, if that makes sense. Obviously, I was locked in, but I was really nervous. I had a bad day. My day started horrible all day on Wednesday, and just had a bad day on Wednesday. And a lot of Charlotte FC guys had a bad day. How was your day?
Well, my day was fine on Wednesday. I mean, I called you mentioned I was busy. I called the Queens men's soccer match on Wednesday at 5 o'clock. So when that was over, I was just right home to see Charlotte FC kick off.
Go Royals!
But before we get into that storytelling, let's set the scene here. We're at Trolley Barn. We're at a new location here on the show. Trolley Barn. It's in South End. It's right here. You heard the light rail. I was going to say gold line.
The blue line.
The blue line. The blue line. You heard that come by here. It's a beautiful Friday it's a lunchtime.
Yeah.
On a Friday, we're both having a lunch beer. We're both having an Italian Pilsner.
Yes, indeed. Sanctified is the name of the brew from here at Trolley Barn Fermentory and Food Hall. And, we're sanctified in the blood of Lattanzio, I guess. That's why it's an Italian Pilsner. Sorry if not to be too blasphemous there, but, it's an amazing scene. And we're here in the heart of South End, and you hear... it's a little loud. I hope everyone can hear everything all right. There's maybe some construction noises going on in the background, because Charlotte is a city that's building. Not only is our football club being built from the ground up, this city is being rebuilt from the ground up in many ways, and yes. The South End epitomizes that. And there's just so much energy and excitement here on a Friday afternoon. And it's just I know there's all this anger in the fan base about the way we went out, and the fact we didn't go further in the playoffs, and the fact that we shouldn't have been in the wild card if we hadn't dropped so many points in September and in August, and all of that. I get it. The draws eventually did really hurt us in the end. But how can you be upset? We achieved a goal. We look great going into next year. We found identity. We established a connection with a captain who is weaving the club and the city together with every freaking public interaction that he has. It's incredible. There's lots to be upset about, and there's things to improve, but man, just how could you not feel a billion% blessed to be a Charlotte FC fan in this gorgeous Queen City on a Friday afternoon, having an Italian Pilsner with your buddy.
Cheers.
And don't forget the Independence play tomorrow. Playoff soccer's not dead in this town. So, what more is there, Yeah,
that's such a great point. The Independence on the road at Union Omaha on Saturday. The kickoff is at 5:30 Eastern. There's a watch party at 11 Lakes Brewery. up north and around Huntersville.
Yep.
I think that.
Yep. Go to Lake Norman for the day and then swing over to the Indy watch party.
Very famous seltzer they have, the Yellow Card seltzer.
As I often say, 10 lakes were not enough. They needed 11. You know.
So yeah, Danny, you said that beautifully, and to get back to your original question about sitting down to watch the match and seeing it all play out and giving up 5 goals, and I honestly feel like knowing now that Red Bull is moving on, that all the 8 teams that are in the MLS Cup playoffs are about to play a 3-game series, it makes me feel like Charlotte FC didn't make the playoffs. It makes me feel like Charlotte FC made the play-in game and didn't get to actually compete in the MLS Cup playoffs. And the reason why I say that...
Like the Tuesday NCAA tournament games
yes.
or whatever, the 65 through 68s.
Yes, yeah. But the difference there, and this is why it's even different than that, because if you win that play-in game, you go and you're playing a single elimination game that next time. So technically, it's all single elimination, and yes, it's the same thing that everybody else is experiencing. See, what I'm trying to explain is that I feel like there's a lot of meat left on the bone for me. I feel like I didn't get the real experience because I didn't get a 3-game series.
Right, the 3-game series, even though they're brand new,
and a home game.
What you're telling me is that's the real playoffs in some.
Well, it's not that it's the real playoffs. It's just that's
playoffs.
What everybody else is doing.
Yeah,
and we didn't get the chance to do that, which makes me feel like we got left out.
And admittedly, everyone's going to crack jokes and be like, "Oh, MLS, the only league where 2/3 of the teams make the playoffs." And you know what? There's still a third of the teams that went home. I'm sure Montreal and New York City and Chicago. I know Jordan Shaqiri would have loved to be playing in a playoff
What about
game.
Toronto?
He's a competitor. Well, Toronto, Toronto would like to.
What about Miami?
I mean, we could go off on that. We'll do some side episodes about how horrible they are. But over in the West, I'm sure Austin wishes they were in the playoffs. Austin made to the Western Conference Final last year, and they're not even in the playoffs. So they could be a lot worse. And at the press conferences, both the captain and the gaffer highlighted that. They said, I know people are unhappy with the way in which we went out, but you have to look at the fact that we were in this game, and a lot of teams that wanted to be in this game weren't.
Couple things there. First and foremost, I think the other reason why I kind of felt like I didn't get everything that I paid for, right? The product came at the house, and I had to call the number because there were some parts missing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? The reason why I felt that way is because the game felt over at halftime, right? I didn't even get 90 minutes.
Right, didn't even really get 30 minutes.
Right.
Because we were down 2-0 in 25 minutes.
It was over as quick as it started.
To a crazy against the run, well, not against the run, but just a crazy sort of like half counter goal, and then a crazy free kick goal that Kalina everyone was like, oh, that's an unstoppable shot. And it was probably unstoppable, but man, Kalina almost had his big paw up there to save that John Tolkien free kick.
Yeah, it was a really nice free kick.
Not that it would have mattered.
Yeah, really nice free kick from probably one of the most hated players in MLS if you're a Charlotte FC fan.
If you're a Charlotte FC fan, for sure, probably one of the most beloved players in the MLS offices because he's going to go make the league a ton of money when they sell him sometime next year. I mean, he's a homegrown kid for the Red Bulls, and he's kind of like he's a guy that our homegrowns are all great, but none of our homegrowns are also our best playmaker on the team. So the Red Bull fans do have a special connection to Tolkien for sure.
Well, and the other thing that you mentioned, the second thing was the press conferences. And so first and foremost, I wanted to say, if you haven't checked out our YouTube page, make sure you go there. Charlotte Soccer Show on YouTube. Danny Brams has been doing some really cool content decoding the press conferences, right? When you think about a press conference, it's pretty boring, right? Unless you're in the press, it's Q&A. There's a lot of things that you need to decipher, and no one's there to tell you exactly what's being said. How did you come up with this idea, and what would you tell the folks that are listening to this show now about why they should go check out this content?
Well, it starts because I'm kind of both a professional and a personal nerddom sort of thing with listening to sound bites. So my whole career in television production, starting from the very beginning, even before I got into sports, when I was working in news, a huge part of my job was listening to interviews, picking out the most important things they said, and finding the right sound bites from the long bits of sound. I've been doing this for 20 years, listening to people talk, so it's like I should have some value from that experience, and I like to hear people talk, and I like to hear people talk, give extended thoughts, because a lot of times you have to have somebody say an extended thought before you get all the bullshit out of the way, they give coach speak, and then they run out of things to say, and then they tell you what they really feel, you know? So, like, you have to sort of listen to all that, and so I did the thing, I knew that, like, reaction videos are cool on YouTube, and I did the reaction video watching the uncut clip, and I was like, that was really fun, and then it's like, what's something else I could react to? And I was like, oh, well, I love press conferences, let's react to the press conferences. So
go there and check out that content, and before you do that, though, I want to hear what, you know, we're not going to hear what Christian Lattanzio, what Patrick Agyemang, and what Westwood said. You can go hear that on YouTube. But what was your takeaway from post-game? Charlotte FC loses 5-2. It feels like a very deflating loss. And all of a sudden, after our playoff game, it's Patrick Agyemang who takes the microphone.
Yeah.
What did he say?
He had a giant grin on his face. He thanked, you know, he was just grateful for the opportunity. He'd been preparing for this. He said he prepared to come in any game, anytime he was on the bench, even in games where he didn't come in. He said he'd always been ready. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, you know. And that's his mindset. And you know, he was smiling when he talked about the goals. The coolest thing I saw, you know, obviously it's funny. We take this so hard as fans, and the older players who are like running out of chances are going to take a playoff loss a little bit harder. Right. A young player like Patrick, he obviously was upset to lose, but like, you know, he knows he's going to have more chances. He took it in stride a little bit more than as a youngster who can just sort of wash it all off. And the coolest thing was the smile on his face. You know, some may call it a bad look to like be smiling so quick after a humiliating loss, but the thing that made him smile was when Carol asked him about defenders bouncing off him on the goal. She's like, you just took on defenders and you were just throwing them around like ragdolls and they were bouncing off you. And he's like, yeah, I was. He's like, I knew I had someone coming on my shoulder and I could have gone down and tried to draw contact for the pin, but I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll just throw him down on the ground and go score this goal instead. You know, and it was amazing, you know, so.
You know who has? There's only one player that is part of this club that has 135 minutes of playoff experience, and it's Patrick Agyemang.
Yeah, great point.
90 minutes for Crown Legacy.
Yeah, build the legacy, baby.
45 minutes for Charlotte FC. Only one player in this squad has played 135 minutes of playoff soccer, and it's Patrick Agyemang. So you were at Camp North End. You were at the watch party. And first and foremost, what was the vibe there? How quickly did the mood turn sour because of that first half? And when did everyone realize that Patrick Agyemang was coming on, and how did the fan base react to that?
So here's what happened. I had a rough day on Wednesday, woke up late, got way behind on my routines, fighting traffic there and back again. Car line was hell at school, all of it. I had a rough day at work. I was dragging ass, just trying to get through my shift. It came down to all of it. I got out, had to fight the traffic on the way back, and I got home. I was doing a quick 5-minute stop at home and then run to Camp North End. I did my 5-minute stop, dropped a few things off, and then I'm like, man, do I really have it in me? This has been a rough day. I'm nervous. I don't feel great about this game. Do I really want to go up there and like not have control of my environment and wonder, like, you know, what if the screen goes out, or what if the audio doesn't work, or something like that?
Or what if the TVs aren't, simultaneously playing the same game?
Funny you should mention that. So I sucked it up. I eventually thought, hey, I have friends that are going to be there. I told anyone that would listen I was going there. I can't just back out at the last minute. That'd be bad form. Like, suck it up, buttercup, and get up there. So got up there, instantly was glad I did. Got my energy back as soon as I got there. Great scene. They had an outdoor setup and an indoor setup. Absolutely incredible. The indoor in the huge room, a little bit warmer. Beer lines were long. I could have done with more beer stands. There was only 2 or 3 beer stands. Definitely need, you can't be watching the game and standing in a beer line 20 people deep. That doesn't work. So that needed to be worked out a little bit better. But there was also non-alcoholic options. There was coffee there and stuff like that. There's local coffee grower stands and stuff like that. A lot of families on blankets out on the lawn. Screen was huge. Everything was great. Great vibes. There's, taco stands, halal stands, churro stands, all of it. And then the issue came, though, was that right before kickoff, like a minute or so before kickoff, the big screen outdoors went blank. And it was like, is it going to come back? Is it going to come back? Because it was still on indoors. And it was like, what? And they had been synced up before that. And then it finally comes back right before kickoff. and it's like 5 seconds or so delayed on outdoors from indoors. So you're hearing a little bit more of a reaction indoors before it happens outside, which 5 seconds might not seem like a lot, but it actually is kind of significant.
It is significant. It's like the corner TV at EPR.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
The corner is a little bit faster.
Ahead.
Yes, faster internet in that corner. So then what happened, the problem was, though, at halftime, the TV outside went out again. And when it came back this time, it was like 90 seconds behind the indoor screen. So it really made... I'll get to this other part of the story in a second, but just in general, that was something that needs to be fixed, along with a few more stands to lower the line issues. I would have said, unfortunately, technical issues got in the way to where the indoor and outdoor experiences were both very different, and it got to the point where we knew about our goals that were scored like 90 seconds in advance. Like, you hear a huge crowd go up indoors, and you're like, if you're outdoors, you're like, oh shit, well, something's about to happen. And then conversely, even worse, if we had a promising attack going and you're watching outside and you're like, oh, we got a 3-on-2, let's go, but you didn't hear like a loud cheer from inside, you know nothing came of this promising attack. So it's like, why am I even watching this thing that I don't know nothing's going to happen? So bad form there, not their fault, but there were some technical issues. I guess the only fix there would have been just to do more to divide, but it's open air up there. In that indoor building has a bunch of open air windows that look out to the outside. So whatever. So
it's a first for everybody.
It's first. Kudos to everyone for getting it. And to be honest, I'm probably complaining about it more than most folks were. Most folks just took that all in stride and went with it. But that's me. So then the other thing was, I was disgusted. I was absolutely disgusted at halftime, down 3-0, and I was there with.
The first half there was you could tell in the first 5 minutes of the game that it was going to be a problem.
Right.
We couldn't even keep the ball. We couldn't get the ball out of our own half.
Right. It was like Drago beating on Apollo Creed at the beginning of Rocky IV, and I'm like Rocky in the corner, like, get out of there, get out of there, and like Level Up Luke sitting on my left, going, throw that damn towel, and it's like but like,
yeah, you could tell, you could tell
it was rough, and
but that pressing style, Charlotte FC, I think if there's one issue for this club, there's one kryptonite for this club. It's when Charlotte FC gets pressed in Christian Lattanzio's system, they have no ability to deal with it whatsoever.
Right, and when we turn the way our system works, because we're bringing an extra defender up so far advanced, when we turn it over, we're just in bad spots every time. They just popped it over the heads of our back line for the first one, and Manuel, really nice, swinging leg finish through it on the half volley, and then we were toast. The other thing, though, I was so disgusted, I left at halftime. I left Camp North End at halftime, and I got about a mile down the road, and I said, you know what? Fuck that, I'm going back. And so I went back to Camp North End, and so I was watching the first half indoors because I didn't want that delay, but once it became 3-0, the delay didn't matter as much to me, and I just wanted to sit out on the grass with friends, and so I found a spot on the lawn with Elevation Jones and Becca from Mint City and all the legacy dorks that the folks that really created the subculture of Crown Legacy. That's a term of endearment, by the way, not a diss. I consider myself a legacy dork as well, and we had a great time. And cheering, getting to see Kerwin's wonder strike, getting to see Patrick's goal. I mean, those were moments that gave us something to remember. First playoff goal in Charlotte FC history always will be Kerwin Vargas bicycle kick. I mean, how cool is that?
It's amazing. It's a goal that, if you're a soccer fan, if you're a supporter of this club, it's a goal that you'll likely never ever forget. Mm-hmm. And I think
Carroll assist.
The interesting part about that goal for me was at 3-1, Vargas, just one of the sickest goals you'll ever see. And in that situation, Kerwin, could have celebrated. He could have, made it all about him, and
could have done a triple backflip instead of a single this time, or whatever.
And instead, he was just get that ball back to the center circle and let's go. Let's try to get another one.
We're down 3-1.
And I thought that was just it was something that wasn't pronounced, it wasn't discussed, but to me it kind of showed the maturity that a young player like Kerwin Vargas has, and then Patrick Agyemang steps into the game, and it kind of shows the maturity and the ability that a young player has on this squad. And the question should be asked, why does it take a game like, for instance, Kerwin Vargas is playing for one reason. It's because he scores goals, right?
Right.
I think that if he didn't score,
creates goals.
Yeah, and he creates and he scores. Yeah, but he was not in the starting lineup for the majority of the matches towards the end of the season. Then he was inserted into the lineup because
Diagre got hurt.
Because Diagre had a kid.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Right. Diagre never was officially hurt, even though he looked like he was hurt all the time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So Diagre was unavailable for personal reasons.
Yep.
And Kerwin got the start in that match, and then he
goal and an assist.
And so then he played himself into the lineup for the rest of the season, but he had to do that himself, and he needed help. It wasn't Christian Lattanzio that was going to make the decision to start the young player. And Christian Lattanzio, at halftime, made the decision to put in Vargas Agyemang.
Out of sheer desperation.
Out of desperation, he takes off
Yere.
Yeah, so it was a defender. It was a total go for it.
We went to three at the back, which...
Total go for it kind of sub move there. But my question is simply this, is that down 3-0 against Red Bull, when you're desperate and the change that you make is to bring on your third striker, my question is, shouldn't that be the player that you're counting on to begin with? Like, why in that play-in 90-minute game situation aren't you doing that from the start of the match?
Especially when your excuse at the end of the game was, it was inevitable that we were gonna be flat tonight because we're so tired and couldn't match the intensity. It's then if you believe that, then have the bravery to make changes even from a winning side. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that doesn't, you can't. That's a cake and eat it too thing. That you can't have your tiramisu and your pilsner too. I would tell old CL there on that one, but
well, and I bring up this point because, and I want to get into the discussion about Christian Lattanzio. I want to ask you whether he's done enough to remain manager of this squad, and I want to ask you whether he has managed the young players on this squad in a way that you think benefits this club for the future, or do you think that Christian Lattanzio is potentially stunting these young players' growth by not starting them and all season long relying on now veteran players who I'm not sure have a future for this club? I'm going to ask you that question next. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Charlotte Soccer City. Make sure you follow us on X, Charlotte Soccer Show, and go to that YouTube page. I'm telling you, go to the YouTube page. You're going to see some really cool content there. You're going to be able to watch these press conferences and hear Danny Brams react in real time.
There's a very strong likelihood that in the off season, like a lot of our off season stuff is going to be more on the YouTube than on the audio, just because it's going to be tougher to get together. Johnny can crank something out on the YouTube. I can crank something out on the YouTube. So you got to be following us.
Right.
There.
So what we're going to do now is we're talking about this match against Red Bull. Next week we're going to be back with an episode. It's going to be the season wrap-up show. We're going to go player by player. We're going to discuss this roster, who will be here next season. But for now, we're going to talk about this match. We're going to talk about the final few games of the season, and we're going to talk about whether Christian Lattanzio did enough in that match against New York Red Bull to come back next season. It's the Charlotte Soccer Show. John Hayes, Danny Brams, back after this. All right, we're back from the break. Hit the bar during the break here. We're upstairs at Trolley Barn. We're here. There's a company lunch happening here upstairs. We're crashing that company lunch. There's a bar in there. We just got 2 more Pilsners. But there's this patio outside. There's this deck. There's this balcony here. And nobody's on it besides us, and we've got probably the 2 best seats in the house.
We didn't ask if we could come up here. We just came up here, and we set up shop. That's kind of the way we do it on Charlotte Soccer Show. And the view of uptown, just up the train tracks, is so nice. It's been a while, I'll admit, I've been extremely lazy this year, and it was really hot this summer, so I didn't do it as much as I have in previous years, but I love biking the train trails, just one of my true joys in the city of Charlotte. Great scenery, if you know what I mean, and you can go up and down parallel to the train tracks and just let the wind blow in your hair. It's a beautiful thing. So
it's such a cool part of town. And yes, South End, especially this part of South End, is getting a little corporate, if you will.
Sure.
With some office buildings around here, but there's things here in this Atherton Mill area that have been here for a long time. And I'm looking at it now, and I'm going to give a shout to Luna's Living Kitchen here. A great vegan breakfast, lunch, and dinner spot that has been here as long as I can remember. Some of the businesses that have always been here are still here, and that's a very good thing.
Yeah, we haven't lost our soul yet. Charlotte is a soccer city. Charlotte is a paradise, is what I tell a lot of my family members who live elsewhere, trying to get them to come visit here, but I don't want anyone else to move here because it's way too crowded. Johnny, we're back. We're drinking another Italian Pilsner. We're still on the Sanctifieds. We're going to talk about an Italian momentarily, but just before we get into the Lattanzio talk that you teased, I just want to tell one quick story because you mentioned that you've got some spicy thoughts that we're going to get into in the season review show, if I could deep tease that one, just about the performances and who's good enough. And I know you feel like there are some players on this team who aren't at the level we need to take it to the next level, but I want to share just a story that might put a little bit in perspective because I know you're a golfer. I'm also a golfer. Don't golf as much as I used to back in the day. I'm a horrible golfer, but I used to be a much better golfer back in the day when I played a lot, and that's how that game works. Yeah. And so I played on my high school team, not because I was particularly great, but I went to a small high school. I think only 7 guys tried out for a 5-man team, and I made the 5. So that was good. So I love tournament golf. I love being at a tournament and checking the leaderboard. And even though the way our tournaments work was like you played all 5 guys played a round, and you drop the lowest score, and then the best 4 scores is your team score, etc. And we play the same. We had like a region, so the same 7 opponents every tournament. We rotate all these courses. Get to know all the guys from the other schools. And it was just this real great time of my life playing high school golf. Absolutely loved it. It helped shape me. And we were building things. I joined the team as a freshman. We played as sophomores, played as juniors. When the time and we were never any good. Our school was a small, tiny little, practically a reform school for Mormons who got kicked out of public school in Utah and went to the rinky-dink little Catholic quote-unquote private school that was really just a jailhouse. And but our team had a lot of fun, and we had so much fun on the road trips, and we were never any good, but we built and we got better, and we added younger players came in after me who were good, and I was more of just a mentor than a contributor. My score was often the 5th one that was dropped, and all that stuff. And we loved our coach and all that, and it just reminds me of Charlotte FC, if you will, this idea of trying to create something and build from scratch and fight against the odds and not have. We didn't have a ton of resources. Charlotte FC does have a ton of resources. That parallel doesn't work. But the whole point is my senior year, we finally did it. We earned our way to the state tournament. Charlotte FC made it to the playoffs in year 2. In year 4 of my golf team, we made it to the state tournament. Instead of the 7 schools that we played every week, we were going to compete against a group of 25 schools from all over the state instead of our region. And we were so proud. We worked so hard. We qualified on the final regular season tournament of the year. And we had just built this thing, and we were so happy. We all went, the 5 of us had this great road trip, drove down, and coach driving the van and all that. And everything was great. It reminded me of Saturday night after we beat Miami. Reminds me of that drive down to Nephi, Utah for the state tournament. And everything was just so grand. And then what happened? All 5 of us played our worst tournament of the year. It was 105 degrees out. We were walking. It was a mountain course. It was horrible. I was dying. I wanted to quit. I wanted to walk off at the turn and just not even play. This thing that I built 4 years to create, much like Camp
almost felt like at halftime.
Yeah, exactly. And we all did horrible. We fell on our face, and we just absolutely didn't show up for the biggest moment that we had worked towards the whole year and my whole 4 years. And it's very much a parallel to what happened to Charlotte FC in Jersey. And I just bring it up because now, 30 years later, I can say my only memories of that time are just the camaraderie and the people and the great times. And, I can tell the story about one of the worst rounds of golf I ever played and the time I wanted to quit. But I don't really think about it in terms of details too much, although it was a really nice course we were playing. But I just think about the battles we won. You remember the things we fought. And when I think about the 2023 season, all I will think about is beating Miami. Really, just decision day.
Yeah, earning that moment on decision day.
Nothing can take that away.
Well, and the problem, and by the way, it's such a great story, and I think the parallel of achieving a goal and then going to see that goal through, it being a whole other experience, right? Yeah. The goal was to make the playoffs. The goal was to play in the state tournament. Yeah. But then, once you reach that goal and you realize that I'm about to tee off in the state tournament and all these guys are good, or the ball's about to be kicked.
And we barely got it here, and everybody else is trying to win it.
And Red Bull's on a 4-game winning streak, and they're playing out of their minds at home. It's like, oh, wait a minute. This is a brand new challenge. And as you're telling that story, I think, and I'm thinking about it, and you're talking about decision day, I think there's one thing that really kind of hurt Charlotte FC, and it was very simply the fact that the decision day was on Saturday, and this playoff match was on Wednesday.
Right.
You're talking about 3 days off from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. You know what it reminded me of? And I thought about this before the match even started. I failed to mention it on the preview podcast. But what happened to Charlotte FC is not too dissimilar to what happened to Chicago Fire, where you achieve the highest of highs, and then just a few days later, you have to get yourself back up to achieve something even greater. Right. And that's what happened to Chicago. They had that game against Inter Miami and Messi. Yeah. And it was Soldier Field was totally packed, and they put on an unbelievable performance. Then a couple days later, Charlotte FC came to town, and they just it was hard for them to reach that level again.
Their bubble was burst.
And it felt really that way for Charlotte.
So here's my question, though, to move us to what the meat of this segment is. Everything you're saying is true, but there's a way to talk about it. And I don't like the way Christian Lattanzio talked about that truth that you just outlined, which was he called it inevitable. Was it? Yes, it was a tough situation to go from the high to then get back up again. But was it inevitable? Inevitable is such a horrible word choice, I think, there from the gaffer, because there are things we could have done that we didn't do to try to mitigate some of those realities in terms of being gassed and the short turnaround and stuff like that. So it gets us to what we want to talk about is, before we make any other moves, and we're going to talk player movement in a future episode, but the decision must be made at this point. Should he stay or should he go? Are you Laddie in or Laddie out? And more important than what you think should happen, what do you think will happen? Because that's what we got to deal with.
Yeah, I think what will happen, let's start there, is that this team is going to go through the beginning stages of its off-season. The MLS off-season calendar has been released. There's important dates that start as early as November 22nd. And it leads all the way up until...
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, exactly. and it leads all the way up into free agency in mid-December, and then the Super Draft in December. So there's a lot to happen here over the next couple months. And this club needs to make a decision and make a statement here soon. So what I expect to happen is that there will be a club statement at some point. I think that there should be a season-ending press conference. I don't think that a post-game press conference, and if there's not a season-ending press conference, I think that's a problem.
I mean, we need another episode of Decoding the Presser, so let's give that.
Even I mean this. Zoran.
You're right, though.
Zoran Cronetta should be in front of the microphone.
It would be appreciated for sure.
And there should be an end of season press conference. And if there's not, I think that's a really bad look for the club.
It's like, why not? Yeah. It just adds questions that don't need to be asked.
Right. So my gut tells me that Christian Lattanzio will be back. Now, I have one stipulation, and one stipulation only. Christian Lattanzio can come back and manage the squad because he got the team to the playoffs. They played in the playing game. They won the biggest match of the season at home against Miami. And for that, I'm okay with Christian Lattanzio being rewarded. But when the starting 11 is announced for the first match of next season, if Patrick Agyemang isn't in the starting 11, I don't want him to make it to the sideline. Like, I want him to be fired 45 minutes before the game. Like, it's really that simple.
In the space of time between the release of the lineup and kickoff, it's time to sack the gaffer if Agy's not in, for sure. I mean, just play Big Pat. It's so dumb. Like, it's crazy that we're even having this conversation. You know that I'm a fan of global football. I have friends all over the world that follow this game very intensely. We talk all the time about player. You may not know this about me, but I am a nerd for the Belgian league. I'm a nerd for the Dutch league. I follow all these leagues pretty intensely in my free time when I'm not doing work and Charlotte FC stuff. And I have friends that are like, "What is your coach's fucking problem?" Because they look at Agyemang and they see the goals he scores, and they're just like, "How do you not play this guy? It's insane." And like this is a guy that like someday is going to be playing at higher levels. You know, like he's so young and has so much development. I get it, like, but you don't like. And Lattanzio always comments. He's like, he said this. He one thing I didn't like about him, and you'll hear this in the Decoding the Presser, is that he's like downplays the achievements of the youngsters all the time. He's a very even keel. Like his whole MO is don't get too high, too low. Whereas Charlotte FC fans our whole MO is ride the wave. So it's kind of a clash of styles and contrast there. But
that's right.
But he says part of not getting too high, too low is you kind of fail your young players when you fail to gush about their remarkable achievements. And like for Kerwin to score the most amazing goal I've ever seen, and then for Patrick to score just basically snap it. Patrick basically said, "I want to score, so I'm going to go score." Like, like for those to happen.
Let me just say real quick. We talked about the Kerwin Vargas finish, but I would encourage people to go back and look at the Patrick Agyemang finish. The way that he lifted the ball purposely up over the keeper and top shelved that goal, it was absolutely intentional, and he pulled it off exactly how he wanted to.
It must be said, because so many times players that with Patrick's physical profile get stereotyped into, power and pace, he's big and strong, that's why he's better than everyone. No, that's not why he's better than everyone. He's better than everyone because he combines that with the brain. And the most important part of the Patrick Agyemang goal against Red Bulls was, you watch, yes, he bodies a bunch of defenders and throws them around like ragdolls, but you got to watch the replay from behind the goal. Because the most important aspect of that whole play is when he looks up and spots his spot in the corner. Like, he's doing all of that under control and like with perfect mental acuity at the same time as he's using his physical gifts. So it's like we got like, and what I want to say is Lattanzio, he just keeps harping on there are other things that Patrick needs to do to develop as a total player, but I'm happy that he's scoring goals. Well, how's he going to develop as a player if he's not out there getting reps?
I think that it's very, very easy for Christian Lattanzio to be scapegoated in this situation, but I actually think this is a team effort to manage a young player who is
that's spicy,
not making a lot of money, and they like it that way, and that they don't want to put this player out there and have to ultimately sell him or be negotiated with in a way that they don't really want to be. And I think
it's too late on that. If I'm his agent, I'm playing the hardest ball I possibly can for the contract extension.
And I think there's I think there's hardball being
yeah.
I know that there's hardball being played here for the last 3 months.
For sure, there's got to be. We know.
And
we know why.
And it's really that simple, right? Where there's hardball being played, and the reason why is because Lattanzio is and Zoran Krneta is and David Tepper is under the gun to sign this player to a big time contract.
I think the ship has sailed on leverage. I think Patrick's got all the leverage now.
I mean, you're talking about legitimately, if you're Patrick Agyemang's agent, and this is why there's so much happening behind the scenes when it comes to this player, is because he'll be looking for a designated player contract.
Right. I don't know if he'll get that, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, for sure.
Like, if I'm Patrick Agyemang's agent and I go to Charlotte FC and I go and I
You start doing the comparative other DPs around the league and stuff like that.
Well, forget about around the league.
In the room.
Hey,
yeah.
You know, it's like, just so you know, my guy's much better than Enzo Capetti.
Right.
And hey, just so you know, my guy's much better than Camille Uzviak.
Yeah, I'm not sure tripling his salary is going to be enough, is what I'm saying here. You know.
Yeah. So, Lattanzio is going to be back. That's my prediction.
I agree.
And
I'll be honest,
I'm good with him being back as long as he plays Patrick next year.
I'm actually good with him being back for a slightly different reason, but it's the fact that the players still love him. He hasn't lost the locker room. He may have lost the fans, and we may not, we may have a lot of crowing in the fan base about, his tactics this, his subbing that, and you know what? Some of it's informed and some of it's not. I've had some good critiques of Lattanzio's tactics, and I've had some bad critiques of Lattanzio's tactics. I'll own up to, I've said some dumb things, and I hope everyone else in the fan base will too, because, we're all still learning. We're all, it's all a process of learning more about the game by watching it. But what I have to just admit to myself is the players like Lattanzio, and, some people, he is... The nuance of the thing of him, for some reason being stubborn about putting young players in the lineup is, he is, in my mind, a developmental coach. He's really good in the practices and at getting guys better through training and you see guys improve with it not playing, and I get that, but that's still not an excuse for not playing Patrick. Patrick must be played.
So, I wanted to take a look at the SofaScore ratings for the squad in this to finish up this episode as we talk about this playoff match. Patrick Agyemang comes in at the 46th minute. He comes in at halftime for Jiri Jurinen, and he logs a 7.2 rating. That is the highest rated player on the pitch, tied with Kerwin Vargas, both goal scorers for Charlotte FC with those 7.2 ratings. I wanted to go to the other end of the spectrum, Danny Brams, and mention three players who unfortunately were ranked in the 5 category. That's Christian Lattanzio with a 5.6, Andrew Privet with a 5.5, and Jiri Jurinen with a 5.9. What went wrong?
You give up 5 goals, you get rated 5. Sorry, KK.
I think that's simple for Kalina.
Yeah.
But for Privet and Jurinen, how do you feel about those ratings in the biggest match of the season?
Privet beat for the first goal on the pop, you saw Edelman popped up just a sort of a little pop-up ball into the box, and it went right over Privet's head, and he let Manuel get behind him, so he got beat badly for the first goal, and then probably had probably a fault for the other goals too, and I just didn't see. Malanda, I know, was at fault for the 5th, trying to offside trap. Manuel, by the way, just really quickly, sorry to digress, but Manuel, 3 goals on the season, 3 goals against us in the playoff game. Last year he had 2 goals on the season outside of Charlotte FC and 2 goals against Charlotte FC. This guy loves playing against Charlotte FC. He has 6 goals and an assist against us in 4 matches. Next time we play New York Red Bulls, please somebody stop LAS Manuel, please, for fuck's sake. But Privet's going to be rated low when you're getting constantly beat by a guy who never does anything against anybody else. And then Yere subbed out at half. He never had a chance to really improve his rating, so he probably finishes over a 6 if he finishes that match. But when you lose 3 goals in the first half, you're going to be rated under a 6.
Another low-rated player who is not in the defensive back line is Enzo Capetti. Enzo Capetti logs a 6.2 rating. His heat map leaves a lot to be desired there.
It looks like a meth head's dental profile. It's just like a bunch of gaps and then little point spots.
Enzo Capetti, someone that I was really expecting to have a really nice game in this match. He has.
Yeah, I guaranteed he would score a goal.
He has 1 shot on target. He loses possession 8 times. He only wins 2 out of 6 aerial duels. Mm-hmm. And
he wasted about 4 minutes in the first half pretending to be hurt when we were down 2-0. I didn't like that.
Enzo Capetti, the designated player for this squad, he is somebody that has had, and we can get into this, and I wanted to bring these ratings up towards the end of this episode because I think this next episode will be an extension of this conversation.
Right. We will, to be continued in some ways, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. But Enzo Capetti, not his best match on Wednesday.
No, definitely not. And you know what I think, personally? I think he was freezing. I think he was just cold as piss. I mean, I don't know the exact temperature, but it had to be colder in New Jersey than it was here, and it was pretty cold here. So I just think he just this is probably the first game he's played in just like freezing cold in a long time. And I just think it got to him. He was shaking, like he got nicked on the hand, and he was like shaking his hand like it hurt really bad, way worse than it should have. I just think he was freezing cold personally.
Wow,
just what I think.
It's
tough to play in that situation when you're just freezing cold.
I mean,
you're not used to it.
I don't know what to say to that.
You're not buying that one.
I really don't know what to say to that without using a word that I really don't want to on this podcast today.
Everybody just imagine that word, and I think the consensus will get us there for sure.
So ultimately, you know, when you get beat 5-2, there's not going to be a lot of good ratings. And I thought Breck Diagre came on in the 66th minute and didn't offer much, and the rating shows that a 6.1 rating, almost a 5.
Brecht has to be better next year. I mean, he had his flashes, and he almost scored a third goal. There was a brief moment when it was 4-2, right after Patrick's goal, and we almost added a third right back. We almost went boom boom. Carroll had a really nice cross across the box. And I didn't see it, but I guess Patrick touched it. I'll have to look for a replay. I missed that. Everybody talked about it in the post game. But for me, it looked like Diagre just didn't get to a ball that he should have got to at the back post, but maybe Patrick deflected it, so that's my bad. I'll have to watch it.
Patrick did deflect it.
Okay.
He did. Yeah, he got a touch on that. And, so Scott Arfield comes in the 66th minute for Enzo Capetti, which was interesting.
When Scotty came in, I thought we were going to do it, to be honest. I stood up on the grass at CNE, and I was just like, Scotty. I thought, oh my gosh, Scotty's in. Now anything can happen.
Who on this roster is going to be with this squad next season? We're going to figure that out over the next 3 months. I think one of the things I really, really like about soccer and MLS and global football in general is the fact that every month, in season, out of season, there's something on the calendar, and it starts next month.
It's a month-to-month sport in many ways. It's
absolutely,
funny,
and you're not going to take any time off. Yes, the players are going to take time off from actually training together, but they're going to keep themselves in shape because after the new year, when that clock strikes midnight and it's January 1st, 2024, that to me is the official start of the 2024 campaign. And yes, they'll have January to stay healthy, and then all of a sudden you get into February, you're in training camp, and things get kicked off. And that will come sooner than you all think because it's November next week. It could be November now as you're listening to this episode. So keep in mind that just because the season's over, just because the MLS Cup playoffs will be being played for the next month until December, right? I think the MLS Cup final is in December.
I think with the 3 rounds, a 3-game first round, I think it pushed it back to December.
It's in December. So this is basically a 10-month, 11-month sport. And we're going to have a lot to talk about throughout the offseason. Please take a look out for our YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe there. All of Danny Brams' great work. For me, I'll be back on the podcast next week for sure to do this season in review. We're definitely going to follow the Independents. And
two games left.
And their possible run to a championship. So let's spend a couple minutes at the end of this podcast here talking about the Charlotte Independents. Let's talk about the fact that they're heading to Union Omaha. Yeah. I believe that I saw that Charlotte and Omaha have a head-to-head record of 2-2-2 against one another all time. So something has to give. And do you think Mike Jeffries can take this team on the road and get a W on Saturday?
I definitely think he can. I'm a little disappointed. At one point, a friend of the show, Mike Umberger, was trying to organize a road trip or a plane trip out to Omaha, and then the cold, cruel hand of reality in the form of airfare costs slapped that plan down. But it's too bad we missed the chance. If this game had a chance to be in Raleigh, if Forward Madison fucked up, and that prevented this game, Charlotte, from going to play in Raleigh, unfortunately. So I probably would have gone to that match if I could have. But I think it's great. I'm going to try to get up to 11 Lakes tomorrow because I drink their beer at the games, and I've never been to the brewery, so I feel like I need to get up there. 5:30 kick. Watch party will probably start a little bit. But I believe there's a free keg. I believe the Independents are putting the first keg is on the club.
If they allow dogs, I will roll up there with my foster dog.
Oh, Buchanan. You got to come see Buchanan, yeah.
And maybe we can find somebody at 11 Lakes or an Independence fan, that is Buchanan can find his forever home.
I think Buchanan is such a great dog for a lake lifestyle too. You know,
I totally
yeah,
agree,
being up there by Lake Norman might find some takers, someone ready to fall in love with this pup for sure. And
on something real quick, because just as we're talking about Buchanan, I will be at Urban District Market on Sunday from noon to 5. That's right on North Davidson Street. Really cool place, kind of near the Noda OG. Remember we went to Soul Food Kitchen that one time?
Oh yeah.
And we did an episode from the OG Noda location.
Oh yeah.
Right around there. It's a really cool place. I'll be there Sunday from 12 to 5 with Buchanan, with the Greater Charlotte SPCA. There's a lot of foster dogs right now.
Right.
Last week on Saturday we did an adoption event. 10 dogs got adopted. Buchanan still doesn't have an application, but you can go to my Instagram page at JP Hayes and kind of see Buchanan and check out a link to his pet finder profile. He's a good dog. Maybe I'll bring him to 11 Lakes tomorrow. We can have a party, and if somebody's interested,
I think that'd be cool. Yeah, they'll let him stay.
Yeah,
yeah, and I think it's good that we bring that up here at the end of this episode, going into next year, the end of the season, because we grew a lot. We want to thank all the TIFOs. We grew a lot in year 1 to year 2 on this show in terms of what we were doing. We added Instagram, we added YouTube, we did more shows.
Yes,
we did more ambitious shows. We added interviews. We did. We added the Queens College, Queens University coverage. We added more independence coverage. We added legacy coverage. We took the show. We leveled up this show thanks to the TIFOs supporting us.
We leveled up.
Yeah. So, but what do you have to do? We have to do that again next year. So one of the things we want to add next year, we want to add some charity work. We want to add some. You want to give back through the show, and SPCA is a cause that's always been very close to you and your wife Rachel's hearts. I don't have a dog, but I did adopt a cat a few years ago, and probably if I move to a place with more space, I would love to adopt a dog. So it's something that we both feel pretty great about. And SPCA work and dog adoption is going to become a theme that we add in much bigger quantities next year to Charlotte Soccer Show, because it goes along with the theme: beer, soccer, and pups. You know. What could be better?
Yeah, absolutely, and I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate all the TIFOs, and I want to thank the TIFOs as well myself. For me, it's been an amazing year, just kind of meeting some of you that listen to this show and becoming honest to goodness friends with a lot of you.
Yeah.
You know, when we say tremendous friends of the show, I literally mean that in the sense of the word, where it's just like
we've built relationships with people.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I know people now, and I feel like through Charlotte FC and through this show, I've been able to expand my network of friends in the city, which was ultimately a good thing. But I really want to know, and I want to get your honest take on this. Is now that Crown Legacy is out of the playoffs, now that Charlotte FC is out of the playoffs, I mean, it's almost serendipitous,
right, that
it's the Independents,
right,
who are the last team standing.
Well, you might think of Return of the Jedi, you know, when Obi-Wan, you know, Charlotte FC goes out of the playoffs, and you have Obi-Wan Kenobi saying, "That boy was our last hope," and then Yoda says, "No, there is another." He was referring to. Actually, I think that happened in Empire, not Return of the Jedi. Forgive me, but
yeah, I remember that scene.
Or maybe I forget. Now I'm confusing myself in which movie it was in. But the whole point is, Independence is our Leia. You know,
yes.
Luke is gone, but we got Leia still, and she's just as powerful. So she's a damn general and a senator, for fuck's sake.
We need to add some. There's still. My point is that as down as I feel, right, about the Charlotte FC season being over, I still have an opportunity to dream.
Right.
And the Charlotte Independence is giving me that opportunity.
Let's bring a championship home to the Queen City. Gabby Oberton said the other day, he said, "I may be old and towards the end of my career, but I'm still hungry." And we're still hungry. You know, let's do it for Captain Clay. Clay Dimmick had a, potentially career-ending surgery earlier this year. He's not done. He's not throwing in the towel just yet, but he's going to have to fight his way back to the pitch. He was jogging the other day.
I saw him back on the pitch jogging.
Absolutely incredible.
I mean,
if anyone can get back from what he went through, it's Clay Dimmick. So we're doing it for Captain Clay. We're doing it for Oberton, one last title at the end of his run.
What do you think about that?
We're doing it for Omar Cease to get the recognition he deserves. Omar Cease is
Austin Pack.
Omar Cease and Austin Pack are next level players. No slouch to USL 1, but there's higher levels, and those two guys deserve to play higher levels.
I'm going on my Instagram right now because I wanted to bring this up, and my notification is Austin Pack liking my reaction to his story.
Hell yeah, dude.
Which is the 2023 Players' Choice Best 11 from USL League One. The players in USL League One voted Austin Pack as the best keeper in the league.
Not only is he the best keeper in USL One, he's the best keeper in the city of Charlotte. And that's not said it with any tongue-in-cheek whatsoever. That's 100% sincerity. And, you know, if you can't make it to the watch parties, get on ESPN Plus, get on whatever streaming services these games. They jump around to a few different services, but let's get a title. There's still a soccer title can still come home to the Queen City this year.
Absolutely right. And that hardware and that silverware, you can see it at Elizabeth Parlor Room. You know, they've got it there, and it's
final. Might have to watch the final at EPR. I think if we can get past Omaha.
Coach Jeffries is somebody that you know today on match day -1. Coach Jeffries is in the lab. They're traveling out to Omaha, and he's thinking about the best way to kind of take this group of players, which is a really special group of players, a bunch of guys that play well. Remember, they moved down from USL Championship.
Yep.
I think that this team has a chance to go to Omaha and get this win, and I hope they do. And I hope we see you Saturday at 11 Lakes Brewing. This watch party there should be just it's what it feels like, Danny, is, you know, when like you go through a hardship and there's something on the calendar that just helps you get over it, and helps you feel better and helps you turn the page, right? Even if the Independents lose on Saturday, like the fact that they're still playing this weekend, to me, is enough to make me feel better, make my soccer soul feel full.
The best way to get over one club is to get under another club, right?
He's Danny Brams. Watch his content on YouTube at Charlotte Soccer Show. You can follow him as well at Danny Brams on X. Follow him on Instagram as well at Instagram TX. Instagram TX. And follow me at JP Hayes on Instagram. Follow the show at Charlotte Soccer City. What did you think about that reel that I made?
Beautiful.
For the Independents. I was like, you know what, let me screw around on Instagram today and try to make this a reel for the Independents. And I did it on Charlotte FC Match Day, and I was like, wow, I guess I should put a Charlotte one together too.
The content is king on IG. You know, we love all the different ways we can communicate, we can express our love for this city and this sport, for sure.
So what we're going to do this afternoon is we're going to kick back, we're going to finish these Pilsners, we're going to enjoy an 80-degree late October Friday afternoon here.
Winter is coming, my friends. Winter is coming. Weather Brad has put out the beacon. Monday, things are going to change in this city, temperature-wise, big time.
I hope everybody has a great weekend. If you're listening to this over the weekend, I hope you're having a great weekend. If you find this on Monday or earlier next week, I hope you had a great weekend. But for now, I'm John Hayes. He's Danny Brams. And as always,
up the Jacks, baby.